This is the warning. This will be an Ask Me Anything where I answer your questions. Given the president's age, why has not the administration given more exposure to Vice President Harris? Well, the truth of the matter is the vice president has been mishandled and mismanaged at an epic level by the senior communications officials of the Biden administration. One of the mysteries and wonders of the world will always be in American politics, how it happened that Kamala Harris, bright, smart, brilliant at communicating, has become a deeply unpopular figure and known for being an ineffective communicator. None of that was true until she became vice president. And this is important. She was an asset until she was mismanaged into becoming a liability. And the reality is, for an 82-year-old candidate for president, who is running underneath him on the ticket will matter. And she will be a factor in the race because many Americans will look and they will say this is an election in the end that will decide whether Kamala Harris fulfills ultimately the duties of the presidency at some point in Joe Biden's second term when he inevitably becomes incapacitated. This is a core underlying message that should not be shied away from, walked away from, or pretended doesn't exist in this election. It's a critical issue. And the fact of the matter is that Kamala Harris needs to be reintroduced to the country effectively this time by the Biden White House. The failure to do so is the equivalent of shooting yourself in the foot. They need to do better on this front. The good news here is Kamala Harris is not Dan Quayle. She is an able political leader. What she needs is a ring where she can do well in. And that's the responsibility and the job of the White House communication operation. Gary asks, given the dangers of the border as a political issue for Joe Biden, why won't he make changes? And that's a good question. The fact of the matter is this. If we imagine and visualize, and it's important to do so for the purposes of defeating him, Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States, and we pondered deeply the question of how that happened. How did the man who tried to hang his vice president and incite an insurrection manage to get elected president again? And the answer to the question will be that over the course of the Biden presidency, many millions of people came into the country illegally. And when they did so, the national media lectured the American people about the inappropriateness of the word illegal when applied as a preface to immigrant to describe an immigrant in the country illegally, and the fact of the matter that the millions of people who came into the country illegally and that the migrant crisis that led them to the border in the first place is in fact not happening at all, according to many people who have political positions of authority in the country. That's why. And the American people will go into the voting booth and they'll take care of business on this issue. What people want is law and order. And this fits perfectly, round peg, round hole, with Trump's blend and style of authoritarian politics, of strongman politics, where he declares, I alone can fix it. Chaos at the border is something that the Biden team has not taken seriously for 3 years, but they need to hear the American voter while there's 235 days in this election to make this issue as much as possible go away, to get it off of the front pages of the newspapers all around the country, and to come up with a remedy in partnership with America's cities that alleviates the crisis in them caused by all of the release of these migrants who have come to the border. This is a serious issue politically for the president. Underestimating it, turning a blind eye to it, not listening to the American people is not a strategy. It's a suicide wish. Stopping Donald Trump means understanding the root, the cause, the power of his demagoguery. And there is no issue that he has been more adept at tapping into than the nativist strains, the jingoist strains of the American right, the paranoid nature of the American right, and its belief that it is being invaded by an uncivilized horde. It is racist, it is toxic, it is dangerous, it is divisive, but it is real and should be faced directly, clearly, and unabashedly. The question is are we ever going to get our country back and heal these nasty divisions? First, let me say I appreciate the sentiment of the question and the frustration of how nasty, divisive, cruel, and disgusting American politics seems and is. And it is absolutely true that there was something better within living memory for so many people when we look at the degradations that exist in this moment to a system that everybody understands is necessary, important, and must be preserved. Nobody has taken your country from you. A small cabal has become a minority faction that has taken power in the Republican Party. And because that party is one of two, the third oldest in world history, the Democrats are the first, they have a chance of taking executive power and constitutional authority, with the possibility for catastrophic consequences being very high. There's never been a genteel time in American history. There was never a utopia moment in American democracy where wise people gathered together and reasoned. It's always been a tough business. It's always had vicious players. But at the core, it was always grounded in a mutuality of belief in the primacy of democracy as an instrument to restrain humanity's darkest impulses and keep the individual free and safe. We have evaporated from that understanding, which is the cornerstone of our society, has evaporated, and we cannot let it dissolve. It must be fought for. It must be fought for by citizen action, by caring, and participation. Thank you for listening to my political commentary. If you like what you heard today, please also consider subscribing to The Warning, daily newsletter on Substack.